Okay, says I'm live. We'll see. 50-10 hole.
50-10 coq.
That's French. It means 50-10 hull.
50 coq.
All right. Now that we've got translator translating English to French for us. Obviously, a lot of us have been through a lot in the last few years. A lot of y'all, because of COVID, have to deal with things that I've been telling you homeless people have to deal with for years. Now that you're living through it, you're complaining. While for years, how did you treat homeless people that are going through that? You weren't very nice, were you? A bunch of them people in Boulder, Colorado, or Boulder County that had their stuff burnt down to the ground. Well, they got into new housing pretty much immediately. Where the fuck is my lighter? But not all of them. And a lot of them had to spend at least a few nights out in the cold. And they got to learn that there's a big difference between being cold from your front door to your vehicle and being actually cold, actually running the risk of fucking freezing to death. I got out of Colorado. Yeah, I totally heard a song today called Colorado by Milky Chance. I did get out of Colorado. I was victimized there for doing the right thing. I was victimized for doing what I was told to do. I was victimized for going to the people I was instructed to go to. I was victimized for going the places that I was told to go to. Ultimately, between when Natalie disappeared and when I actually had to go out of my way to break the law to try to force the FBI to do their jobs, because so many jurisdictions, so many different police jurisdictions had taken part in this. I mean, there were multiple police jurisdictions that took part in it before Natalie was killed. They took part in blowing me off. Now, those of you who have been watching my videos for a while, you know that I post up that thing about suicide versus suicidal a lot. And also the things you're not supposed to say to a survivor. I want you guys to put those two things both together. When someone comes to tell you about the abuse that they're enduring, those are the last things you should do or say or treat anyone like. But, of course, I got evidence, don't I? Took screenshots of my conversations with people who claimed to love me, but that's the treatment they gave me. And they didn't care how dismissive it was. Well, me, as a person who was actually there for the situation, is trying to tell these people what's going on. Well, I'm trying to show them factual evidence of the situation. They're wanting to pound me full of their opinions of the situation. Well, if your opinion is based on only what you've seen and you've only looked at the part that's on the internet, and the part that's on the internet is from a bunch of sites that none of them take a look at the full story. They cherry pick little bits and pieces they can use to pretend I'm some sort of a villain. Fuck it. Rebecca has a gentleman friend here in Oregon that she wants to see. Now, she's still in the same shitty situation she was. There's tweakers intense close by her, and tweakers up all night being loud, and She has sensory overload issues, same as me. Very similar reasons, too. Now, I have her permission to post up our screenshots here on YouTube, and I suppose that probably goes for Facebook, too. What I'm going to have to do on YouTube is to read it all and probably hold the phone to the camera so you guys can see it. There's also the thing with Putin, the messages that I tried to send him. That was not necessarily for Putin in specific. I mean, shit, anybody who watches it can understand where I'm coming from. If you can't understand where I'm coming from, you need to thank your lucky stars that you're so goddamn pampered. Now, all the homeless people and anybody who is called mentally ill, we have to fight social bias on the streets, okay? No matter what, we got to deal with that. We have to take that abuse. Unfortunately, a large quantity of the abuse that we take is at the hands of police officers out on the streets. And those bias don't stop at the streets. They continue on into the courts. Which, of course, really sucks. What do we think of that? 50-10 hole.
50-10 coq.
Trying to teach people not to be shitty to each other, but at the same time, it occurs to me that the only thing that they're actually listening to is the people who treat them like shit, the ones who curse at them and berate them and treat them like crap. And then when they want someone to treat that way, well, it's not going to be the person who did it to them, is it? They want that person to love them. It's going to be somebody lower on the totem pole, ain't it? Somebody like me. So, of course, I take the abuse because you don't want to disrupt your family environment, or because you've already tried telling and your family doesn't listen. Now you just want them to love you. Meanwhile, you don't care about the abuse that others are enduring because you were dishonest. Trying to show this evidence, I mean, I've sent it to so many people who didn't do jack shit with it. So many people who just led me on. Now, a lot of people, when you say that you led somebody on, they automatically think sexual. Automatically, their brain just jumps right to it. Oh, well, it must be because you didn't get your dick sucked. Isn't that horrible? Let's say, for example, that somebody tells you, hey, if you show up on Friday night, I'll help you fix your tire. And you show up on Friday night, and them and all their friends beat the shit out of you. They led you on. They led you to believe that they were going to help you fix your tire, didn't they? Now, maybe it's not a bunch of people to beat you up. Maybe they just don't show up and don't answer their phone, and you're wasting your time. When you get a lot of people that waste your time, it gets to sucking real fucking quick. There's a lot of stuff that I cannot post up because of personal information. So, of course, with Mandy Singer, I got to show her some of that stuff so that she could see it with her own two eyes and speak. And she did on my YouTube channel. The things that she's afraid of, they're fucking legit. I hope I've been saying Mandy Singer when it's Mandy Singer and Mandy Hughes when it's Mandy Hughes. But that's another issue with having so many different people that I've had to deal with in the last few years. A lot of different Amandas, a lot of different Mandys, a lot of different people. I've taken a lot of abuse because I tried to show the truth. People say the truth will set you free. Are you sure about that? Because it seems to me all I've gotten out of it is victimized. All I've gotten out of it is having my words twisted into something they're not. Being prevented from even showing up at my own court dates. Being called mentally ill is an excuse to deny me my rights as a human being and to ignore the abuse that I've been enduring. Now let's pretend for a moment that I'm schizophrenic. See, that's what the cops want to push, isn't it? Now, what's been done to me falls under the category of a heinous crime. Actually, a lot of them. Now, what's a heinous crime? Well, taking advantage of the elderly or the disabled, abusing the elderly or the disabled, abusing children, rape, murder, torture, mutilation. These are all heinous crimes. But whether or not a victim is worth giving a shit about, that all comes down to social bias. I mean, sure, conceptually, we all have the same rights. But in reality, we don't. If you can bail yourself out of jail when you're guilty, and I'm stuck in jail as an innocent man because I'm broke, you're allowed to work together with your lawyer. You're allowed to see the slander that's against you. You're allowed to actually work on your case versus, of course, if you're broke, like in Arapahoe County Jail, for example. They don't even allow you access to your legal paperwork. You're not even allowed to look at it. I got in trouble for looking at it because, of course, my public pretender, being an idiot, left it on the counter right in front of me. I picked it up and started reading. And I didn't get too far through it, just enough to realize that the very predators that I was trying to turn in, that I had been denied my right to go to the court dates against, well, lo and behold, their lies are on there. And I can prove that they're lies, but only if my public pretender will do her job, which, of course, yeah, no public pretender is going to do their fucking job for a homeless person. Are you out of your goddamn mind? And then there's all of you that think that there's all these free pro bono lawyers all over the place. And there's really not. You want a pro bono lawyer to help you? You need to find a pro bono lawyer who gives a shit. But then they know that the situation that I'm in is completely fucked. They already know that bias plays more of a part in court than the law itself. Your bias is not my fault. Your system is not my fault. Your bias is not my decision. Neither is your system. There's a lot of things that I'm victimized over that are not my fault and not my decision. It's not my fault that there was slavery 200 years ago. It wasn't my decision for other human beings to own other human beings. It's not my decision for the courts to hold such bias, or for police officers to have so much power that they can literally murder you for trying to turn them in, or less. Meanwhile, we keep getting told that we're lucky that speech that black people have to give their children about you can't run when the other kids run from the cops. You can't run because they'll shoot you. You do need to give that speech to your autistic child, to your child with Tourette syndrome. If they haven't had it yet, they're almost 18 and they're about to go out the fucking door and be on their own. You sure as goddamn need to tell them then. A lot of parents of autistic youth will keep a very tight rein on their child's life. And then when their kid gets out there on their own, They don't know jack shit. For me, growing up in the system, there's a lot of stuff I didn't learn until I got out of the system. But I did eventually get out of the system. Now, when you're called mentally ill, you have to have someone to act as family. If your family doesn't give a shit, you are screwed. One of your friends can act as family, but they have to actually be there to act as family. With them telling you that they're going to do it, there's a time limit on all this stuff. If you don't get off your ass and keep your word, and I'm depending on you and I'm spending all my resources hoping that you're going to keep your word, and you guys got your opinions of that, hindsight is 2020. You can keep your opinions and you can shove them up your ass. The situations that I was going through at the time and the constraints that I had in time and in money, and also the fact that there are a lot of places that I couldn't go without people getting violent with me. I mean, there was a lot going on. And then there's the fact that I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, especially right after Natalie died, trying to make the fucking cops happy, trying to make the courts happy, trying to make Natalie's ex-stepmothers who are getting a hold of me happy. I'm trying to make Candace Bondurant and Cara Johnson Miles and a bunch of other people who are telling me that their lives are being threatened and their children's lives are being threatened and they're being harassed by cops. And most of these people just ended up being drama hounds, drama mongers. People like, well, if you've listened to the conversations between me and Dan Faber, people like Layla Johnson. Of course, Cara Johnson Miles is the one who got to write all sorts of slander in my court date that was allowed and used to prevent me from having an honest court date. It's funny how they say you can't have slander in court, but then they prevent you from having an honest day in court because of slander. And then they don't allow you access to the evidence that proves that you're telling the truth. Hey, I am the victim in this. I am the victim of Cara Johnson Miles, not the other way around. I am the victim of Natalie's ex-stepmothers, not the other way around. I am the victim of Natalie Marie Bollinger herself, not the other way around. The fact that the evidence proves it, well, that's pretty important to note too, isn't it? The problem is the United States government don't give a holy goddamn about you. There's a reason that you're a social security number. You're just another number, and you're treated the same way by the courts. You're treated the same way by the cops. But, of course, as we all know, that depends on how human you are. And how human you are from one person to the next depends on their individual bias. And much of our bias is taught to us by our parents, by our grandparents, by our peers, by our government, by our schools, and especially by the news. If the news says it, it must be true. And that's why the police, well, utilized the shit out of that resource, didn't they? If they lie to the news, it's not their fault that the news lied. Really? Now, the most important thing that you can do when you're dealing with these situations is to record it. With me, a lot of the people that were quote unquote helping me, they weren't willing to record it. Like, for example, Megan Messigatis, who is my autism advocate in Nebraska, she didn't want to record it because she thought it was rude. Like, well, they record it. She said, well, yeah, that's fine. Here's the thing. If they record it, I don't have access to it. If I record it, I do. I do have access to it. But that's also one of the reasons that they kept on charging me with crimes that I didn't commit, is to separate me from having that access because they knew I was trying to turn them in. And of course, do I think that Putin's going to be able to do anything about that? No. I mean, realistically, he could. But realistically, is he even willing to take a look? Does Putin give a holy fuck about some homeless dude in Oregon? Not even the same country, not the same country he's invading, but then again, we're pretty much his biggest enemies, ain't we? I'm gonna, I guess, uh, I guess I'll have to read that stuff from Rebecca tomorrow, and if I can get it to work on my phone tonight, I'll go ahead and put it up on Facebook tonight. But we all need help with her situation. I understand her not wanting to leave where she's at to go trounce off in the woods. I also understand wanting someone there for your own personal safety and security, somebody who you're familiar with and comfortable with. So, hopefully, we don't drag this out too long. A lot of the stuff that Rebecca's been saying the last couple of days is very violent and very angry, and the fact that she gave me permission to put that up here is actually pretty amazing in and of itself. I don't know very many people who are that honest. With Mandy Singer, she helped me a shit ton as best as she could, but the most important thing, I needed her to look at the evidence and go in with me into court. And of course, her own family situation is what prevented that from happening. But thank goodness, she recorded that. She spoke about it. She explained these were not her decisions or her fault. It's that, things did not happen as planned. The Dual County Sheriff's Department making themselves my enemies. And that isn't my decision. I don't make their choices. I don't choose for them to be corrupt. I don't choose for them to try to hide their corruption. I don't choose for them to break the law or to manipulate the situation or to prevent me from going to court. And then they automatically win. And then they get to go to the next court date and say, oh, well, see, we won against him in this. See, he's guilty of this. He's guilty of this. No, motherfuckers. I didn't break the law until I absolutely had to. And that was after long periods of time where I was trying to get help from the police, having to go in by myself and being victimized and threatened and harassed and blown off and ignored and all that other shit. Thank goodness a lot of the people that were actually there for those situations, I've recorded their conversations and put them on my YouTube channel. The lawyers that Megan Misigatis talked to said that they had an overwhelming caseload and that they had a case similar and they were sure that they were going to win it, and they didn't, and so they don't want to pick up mine. But then again, it's Western Nebraska, and most of the lawyers in Western Nebraska that we went through and called and all that stuff, like, they're all saying the same thing, even before my autism advocate got on board and got involved. It was the same stuff. It was, hey, they're calling you mentally ill, so what you got to do is you have to have somebody who is there for you. You have to have a guardian of some sort. You have to have either a friend or a family member or someone there to make sure that your rights aren't violated. Also, you need that person before anybody is going to listen to you, even a lawyer. And getting that explained to me over and over again, and then having to relay the message. Instead of people making the calls with me, they're like, I'm gonna. I don't have the ability to just keep on going back for I'm gonnas when I get there and they're just going to play word games on their phone, And I don't hate them for that. I'm very fucking pissed off, though. I mean, shit, if I show up because you say you're going to help me and I get there and you don't have time to help me, Yeah, I get it if you got kids to take care of. I don't get it if the kids are in bed and you said that you would help me when the kids are in bed, and then here I am spending 4 hours waiting for you to get off the phone. Or you say you're going to go in with me to talk to the Colorado State Patrol like Miss Peaches did, and then you're stuck on your phone until it's obviously too late to go in. And then they wanted us to set up an appointment, and I needed Miss Peaches to let me know when she could do that with me. So, of course, a couple of months of waiting on that, like, Miss Peaches, when are you going to have time? When are you going to have time? Finally, I did break the law. I threatened the President of the United States. I threatened the people who threatened me. I threatened the people who put their nasty cockbeaters on me. I threatened the people who threatened to kill my family. You goddamn right I did. I threatened everyone who threatened me. I just did it back. And then people I didn't even threaten got to take me to court, except I was denied the right to go to court because I was incarcerated. And these fucking pigs knew exactly what they were doing every step of the way. They were helping my predators, the Bollinger family. That includes Kara Johnson Miles and her hangers-on, because despite the fact that she's not related to the Bollingers, she helped the Bollinger family, as well as two of Natalie's stepmothers, to gaslight the fuck out of me. You're not going to make me fucking think that I'm hallucinating shit. But in a lot of my conversations with people, I ask them, I say, hey, am I schizophrenic or did that actually happen? They're witnesses. They would know, wouldn't they? And all of them say the same thing. No, you're not schizophrenic. Yes, that did actually happen. But I'm not good looking, am I? That's not important. But it totally is. Like that rapist a few years ago. You remember the guy. Everybody was posting up about how good looking he was and typing shit that is so incredibly fucked up. Women typing shit like, oh, I wish he'd rape me. Holy fuck. Why the hell would you say that? Why would you type that? So he became this like international star because he's a good looking fucking rapist. And here I am. I'm not a rapist. I'm also not good looking. People also don't really give a shit except the ones that hate me over the slander. I need help getting the word out, getting the evidence out, and getting it seen. But the only ones who actually care to put some work into it are my predators. They go through and they cherry pick. And since I'm trying to turn in the cops, you really think they're going to help me out? Meanwhile, for those court dates that I was prevented from going to, they're supposed to let those courts know that I can't go because I'm incarcerated. And did they? No, they didn't. They're supposed to make arrangements for me to go to my court dates. They didn't. So basically, they treated it as if I was not incarcerated and I was too lazy to show up. I ended up with, when you're incarcerated, you cannot be charged with failure to appear. But guess what? Despite the fact that I did not miss a single court date when I was not locked up, they locked me up and then charged me with failure to appear for court dates I was illegally prevented from going to. People say, hey, Sean, where's your evidence? You know, Zaid Atkinson's got evidence. I've got a fucking shit ton more than Zaid because he didn't go through fucking 6 years of this shit. He went through one fucking day of it. 1 day. And he got paid over $125,000 for that. Zaid did not have access to those police officers' body cameras. Somebody had to help him get those. But he had that help. Just like Sammy Leon Lawrence IV had that help. Just like Michelle Clark had that help. Just like Michelle Rodriguez had that help. I'm sorry, not Michelle Clark, Kelly Clark. They had that help getting those body cameras. And what help did I get? I got pretty words and people taking advantage of me left and fucking right. I'm an at-risk adult. It's easy to do, especially if I'm in a desperate situation. And I absolutely was and absolutely still am. When I broke the law, you goddamn right I broke the law. I did it loud and proud. I didn't try hiding it in Messenger and then pretending it didn't happen. I didn't go threatening to shoot people in the head and then trying to take it off of Facebook. Like, dude, when you threatened to shoot me in the head, I took a screenshot. It don't matter if you fucking removed it. And people want to pretend like I shouldn't have any reaction to this. Like I shouldn't have any reaction to child molesters when I'm on foot, driving down the street and assaulting me. Like I shouldn't have any problems with people trying to destroy my ability to get a hold of my support network, to see my support network, to even contact them. And these people did this evil shit over slander. And I get to hear officers telling me when I'm trying to tell them about assaults that I'm enduring over the slander, they're going to go, oh, well, we can't do anything about people's opinions. You fucking lying pieces of shit. Every time you charge somebody with a crime, you're affecting public opinion. In Chapel, Nebraska, if you are charged with a crime, whether you committed it or not, it goes into the radio and it goes in the newspaper. And people just assume your guilt. You're the talk of the town. And for me, with everything that I had to deal with, I mean, we're talking about dead people there. The last time that they had people getting that excited over something that happened was when Alyssa Derry's grandmother was found. It's a messed up situation, folks. I didn't choose to be born with a penis, and I don't owe it to feminists to apologize for being born with a penis. I don't owe it to women who have sex. I don't owe it to them to give them an apology every time that they want to pretend like I want sex from them. You're having sex. You are out there actually having sex. Many of you actually posting about the people that you're having sex with, women as well. And then you want to pretend like everything with Natalie was because I couldn't take no for an answer. But then you go and you look at our messages between each other. You realize that sex was not at all what I was interested in. You also get to see that Natalie, on more than one occasion, wanted to do that. I thought I was in love with you, and I still am, or I'm still infatuated with you stuff. Like, no, I ain't having that. Now, the other thing is, with Rebecca, I let her know that I would go there and I would rescue her, but only if she asked me to. See, there's a big difference between somebody who disappeared and you're looking for them and when they've been found. When they've been found, like right now, Rebecca, she wants to stay put where she's at. She doesn't know how to get a hold of the guy that she's wanting to see. She knows that he's working somewhere and he's supposed to come back and see her as soon as he's done working. She doesn't know how long it's going to be. It's already been a few weeks. So, you know, she doesn't want to leave her comfort area. She doesn't want to run the risk of leaving, and then while she's gone, he shows up, realizes she's not there. And I think that's completely understandable. She's also having severe anxiety attacks and panic attacks and trying not to have meltdowns from sensory overload because, well, like I said, she's surrounded by tweakers. I am totally down with working together with Russia. And I don't mean invading Ukraine. I am against invading Ukraine. All right. They're their own independent nation. Leave them the hell alone. However, when it comes to governments that have the power to bring this stuff before the UN Security Council and all that kind of stuff, Russia's actually able. Russia can, while America is wanting to ignore all this stuff or destroy evidence of it, for every crime that the police commit against the homeless that they're busted for, there's easily 1,000 or more, that are committed against the homeless by police that the police get away with. The blue line of bullshit, also known as the blue wall of silence. 30 years ago, I was dumb enough to think the cops were the good guys. When you're broke, they don't give a fuck about you. You're not a human being, especially if you're broke and a male. I mean, that right there makes you the scum of the earth in most people's eyes in this country. And of course, the United States is doing the same thing to the homeless that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis did. You call it community service, I call it slave labor. When you get community service, somebody who's in a house, when you get community service because you were drinking and driving and you almost fucking killed somebody, that's still slave labor. But at the same time, you kind of fucking deserve it, dude. When a homeless person is given 60 hours of community service because they went to sleep on public property with a blanket over them so they wouldn't freeze to death, and you're giving them over 40 hours of community service for a trespassing, which is a crime of dishonesty, another 20 hours of community service for the camping, urban camping they call it. You got to be close to the services, and you carry your life on your back. Everything you need to survive, you have to carry on your back, and it gets to hurting. You see all those military soldiers out there carrying that stuff. They're not carrying that gear every single fucking day, 365 days a year. Some of us who were homeless, from time to time, would get lucky enough to have a vehicle we could put our stuff in. Case in point. Now, this is full of evidence of crimes committed against me and crimes committed against others. Most of what's in here is evidence. There is so much stuff in here that I could not fit a passenger in my vehicle and still be able to see out the back window. Anyway, the stuff that I was going to post up for Rebecca, I said I was going to do it today, and I'm probably not going to be able to do that. I'm going to make the effort to at least do it on Facebook. I'm probably not going to get around to doing it on my computer because it's going to run out of juice here soon. So tomorrow I'll try to make 2 videos. One of them will be the one to Vladimir Putin, except in English, and the other one will be the stuff that Rebecca wants me to show. There might be one more beyond that. I mean, I've got to try to speak out about my own situation as well. I do want to make it a point that nearly all of this was over communication issues in texting and in typing and in messaging. A lot of people, they would take so much stuff completely wrong in typing that I'm like, hey, would you please call me? Would you please call me? And a week later, they've taken 30 things wrong that I have not had the chance to explain to them in a way that they're going to understand because, of course, by the time I call them, they've got all that stuff that they've assumed that I'm trying to correct them on because they're fucking wrong. But now I'm having to deal with them wanting to do all the talking because they have all of these assumptions. And I'm like, hey, if you'd have called me 2 weeks ago, I could have explained this to you. I was trying to explain it to you in typing. You were taking every goddamn thing wrong. Then a lot of these people, when I'm saying, hey, you need to talk to me about it, you need to talk to me and you need to listen. So then people who had literally only been texting me, and a lot of them mean texting me because they were taking shit completely wrong, going out of their way to play fucking stupid about what I was saying. I'm like, fuck. Well, I've been talking to Sean and he said, no, I fucking didn't said. You weren't talking to me. By the way, that was at the very beginning. That lady, she gave me her phone number so that I could call her and talk to her. I called to talk to her. It wasn't her. It was some dude who was, I don't fucking know what he was doing. But why the fuck would she give me her phone number and then pretend like I'm some sort of a fucking asshole who was treating her like shit? When she did that, what did I do? I did treat her like shit. Like, hey, you want to play like I called you a fucking moron? Well, you're a fucking moron. There's also people who wanted to give me advice that they wouldn't take themselves. So I give them a tiny portion of what I've been going through, just a teeny tiny smidgen. Holy shit, they didn't take their advice. They tell me stuff like, don't blow it out of proportion, and holy shit, they blew it out of proportion. Someone calling themselves Quit Talking About Me typed, you are so resilient for living in that car. You are way ahead of your time. Okay. Yeah. I'm not so sure if living in a car makes me resilient. I think that that mostly comes from this right here. But I don't think living in a car proves that I'm resilient. And I don't know about charisma. You know, most of my videos have more dislikes than likes on them. There's an awful lot of people that, well, they think that their full-time job should be to troll people. I got a theory about these folks. See, when I was in Boulder, I knew some rich people who like to basically just drink and piss people off all the fucking time. So I kind of get the feeling that some of these folks, they will never have to work a day in their lives. And as a result, they're just trying to pass the time because their fucking lives suck. Sitting in their fucking boring ass house all goddamn day long by themselves. If they got friends that come over, they have to pay their friends to be friends. Of course, down here at the bottom, I kind of feel that way too. Like my friends who claim they were going to help me, I kind of feel like I had to pay them to be my friends, to pay them to help me, pay them to tell the truth. Not that it matters after everything I spent. I still had to record them without their permission and post it on YouTube to show the truth. That ain't something I wanted to fucking do. Just like the situation with Natalie. At the very beginning, I didn't go telling everybody her personal business. I didn't go telling everybody that she was on heroin. For the situation to get so incredibly fucked up that I told the whole goddamn world on my Facebook about her fucking heroin addiction before she was killed. Like, you got to look at what her friends were putting me through. People like Tim Beeson. People like Maddie Boa. And then those of you who want to say, oh, well, you know, it's not Natalie's fault that those people did those things. You shouldn't take it out on Natalie. No, it is absolutely Natalie's fault. She sold a false narrative. She told what she thought to be a little white lie, but it wasn't a little white lie, was it? I was threatened, harassed, assaulted, beaten repeatedly before Natalie died. And I went to people for help. And she tried pretending that because I went to people to ask them for help, that meant that I was stalking her. Quit Talking About Me typed, you have a strong voice and knowledge. Sometimes payment isn't physical. It's emotionally draining. Life is emotionally draining. This morning when I came to the Starbucks here, well, there's been about 5 times when my car wouldn't quite start and I had to get a jump from someone. And of course, the white people here, I don't know why, they can't. They talk real quick, try to get away as fast as they can, like I'm trying to fucking steal their Cheerios or something. But there's Hispanic folk who are here, and for some odd reason, there is nearly always a Hispanic person pulling into the parking right up there. And out of the 5 Hispanic folks to jump my card, 5 of them, 5 completely different Hispanic folks. Is it a cultural thing for Hispanic folks not to be a piece of shit, somebody who just needs a jump? Is it a cultural thing for white folks to treat somebody who needs help like shit? That all comes down to bias, don't it? Comes down to what you've been taught, what you've been trained. A lot of it comes down to family environment. You see the people in the United States who are doing the best, they're the ones either A, with inherited wealth, which means they inherited more money all at once, most of these folks, than you will ever see your entire life, even if you work at a bank. Most of us don't have inherited wealth, do we? The rest of us who do well, we have family support. And that is a consistent in America. Those without family support are not likely to thrive. And they're not likely to survive for very long. With family support, well, you live 20 to 30 years longer on average. Did you know that? A homeless person is going to live on average about 30 years less than the rest of y'all. They're also going to age a lot faster. Tends to happen when you're stuck in the elements. Tends to happen when you don't know when your next meal is going to show up. Tends to happen when you have to walk everywhere with that fucking backpack on your back. You go, oh, well, it's healthy for you. Anything done in excess is not good for you. And that is definitely excessive. Starts to really mess with your back. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the world. I was going to try to give y'all a history lesson about Heinrich Himmler and how they took their model for forced labor camps from the United States of America and our chain gangs, which, of course, chain gangs were created so that after the end of the Civil War, when we made it illegal for civilians to own slaves, we made it legal for the government to own slaves in the exact same amendment. That would be the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment states that if you are convicted of a crime, you can be used for slave labor. That's right. So, you've got 4 million black people in the South who are no longer slaves, now they're homeless. And then, of course, in the South, they enacted a whole bunch of anti-homeless laws immediately. Next thing you know, you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chain gangs all throughout the South. It's not being used as it was intended, is it? It was intended as a race thing. It was intended to keep the black man down. But like I've been saying, when you allow it to happen to somebody else, they can do it to you too. And although those laws were made so they could specifically target former slaves and victimize former slaves, Those laws are still in place today, and they are still being used to victimize not only former slaves, well, that'd be a lot of us, wouldn't it? Anybody who's done that community service. But most of those slaves who were alive during the Civil War, most of them are dead, right? Now, some of y'all will argue that there's like a 216-year-old man who was a slave, and I could probably pull up the tabloid if I really wanted to search for it. But I don't want to argue with those guys, so I'll give that to you. Maybe that guy really does exist. Maybe he really is alive. Maybe you can live for hundreds of years, not just being lucky to break 100. Maybe it's possible. I doubt it, though. I'm going to say that straight out. Those laws were racist. They were created specifically for harming a specific group of people, former slaves, specifically black former slaves. Those laws are still on the books. They're anti-homeless laws. Anything that you can do in a house is pretty much illegal to do outside as a homeless person. There's a lot of stuff that you and your family go out on a picnic or you go camping for a few days at a campsite. It's perfectly legal for you. But if a homeless person even tries, well, there's a park ranger right there being an asshole. I remember going to a campsite. It was my first day at that campsite. I had just gotten there when the park ranger rolled up and said we'd been there 14 days and we needed to leave. Anyway, my battery is starting to run low. It hasn't dinged at me yet or anything, but someone calling themselves Van Life typed you there. Yep, I'm here. I suppose I ought to allow Van Life some time to respond if he's still on, or she. With Rebecca and her freaking out and her violent ideas and her violent mindedness, she needed somebody to be here in person and to verify that she was telling the truth about some of her experiences. And although I cannot verify all of them, I was not there for all of them. There are at least a few of the things that she claimed that I can personally verify. I am here in person to do that. I'm in person to help her with that. I'm not here for vigilante justice. I'm not here to go find Thomas Shipley and harm him. That is absolutely not what I'm here for. I'm not here to go beating the shit out of people. I'm not here to go murder people. I'm not here for anything of that nature. I'm here to see to it that those predators see their time behind bars. I'm here to make sure that Rebecca gets the help that she needs to get up and out and not be homeless. And I'm also here to find David and Katie Saltzman. Last I heard, they were in Beaverton, Oregon, and their house was about to burn down. That was a couple of years ago. And like I said before, Rebecca was not missing when I started driving here. She ended up missing while I was on the road. I finally found her, or rather, she found me. But that was because I was posting up, When you go missing, it's going to freak me out. I've had enough missing people that ended up dead that I freak out every time I find out somebody's missing. And when somebody's acting out of character, that tells me that there's a severe amount of trauma going on. I didn't go running around saying all the hateful stuff that Rebecca did. I didn't. I mean, she goes out there on a whole nother level. But the sad fact is, most of these people go off on that level about such complete piddly shit. Or about rumors that they heard. And they'll literally beat you to death for it. When the cops say we can't do anything about opinions when I'm trying to turn in people assaulting me, it's obvious to anybody that I'm trying to turn in assaults. And it's obvious to anybody that cop is going out of his way to play fucking stupid. Apparently, Van Life is done typing, so I'm going to get out of here and allow you all to get back to your lives. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught, and good fucking luck, folks. Oh, wait, I got one more thing to say. 5010 Hull.
50-10 Coq.